Hi, I'm Zed.
Hi, I'm P.
Welcome to the Not Your Typical Sister podcast. We're two brown girls trying to open the conversation and share our experiences on taboo subjects.
We're not experts or doctors, so we recommend speaking to a professional if you need help or advice. So grab a cuppa, sit back and enjoy the podcast.
We started a podcast. I can't believe it.
No, I can't. It's taken us bloody long enough.
It's taken us far too long to start this podcast, but
Yeah.
there you go. We've done it. We've started. Do you want to introduce yourself, Zed?
Yes, I'm Zed, and I'm a huge Harry Potter fan,
Yes.
and I have 2 children, and I think that's about it, really.
I think that's enough.
That pretty much sums me up. About you?
I am P, and I recently got into drinking loads of herbal teas, which I used to hate as a kid when mum used to feed them to me.
It's weird how your tastes change, don't they? It's like
Yeah.
some things that you probably loved as a kid, you probably hate now, and some things you hated as a kid, you've started enjoying. Like my husband the other day started drinking tea as well.
No way.
Yes, I don't understand how. Usually he just dips his biscuit in my tea, which is really annoying. But he started actually drinking Gurkha chai. He was telling me today, "Oh, I'm craving it." And I thought, "Oh, bloody hell, he's got a tea addiction, hasn't he?"
Well, welcome to the tea club. You know what? Now he's going to want to join us in the coffee shops and little tea shops. Because like, I
Yeah,
drink
well,
tea
too
now,
late, too
so-
late.
For those of you who obviously don't know us very well, Zed and I have been friends for a very, very long time. We obviously decided to start the podcast. We've both got different reasons, I suppose, or kind of similar reasons, but also kind of slightly different reasons why we wanted to do this podcast or why we think the podcast is necessary. But yeah, Zed, I don't know if you want to talk about why you wanted to do the podcast.
I think primarily I wanted to do the podcast because there's so many things that we just don't talk about in our community. There's so many subjects that we don't talk about, and you experience certain things in your life. And when you go through them, you want to talk about them to other people. But when other people aren't open to those conversations, or they don't understand those conversations, or they just shut you down, it's kind of lonely. And I just feel like as if there must be so many other people out there from our community and from other communities who are in similar situations where they're going through something and either people aren't listening or they don't want to listen. I guess this podcast will hopefully help enable those conversations so that people aren't as afraid and they can just talk more openly.
Yeah, definitely. Just building on that point, like for me, I think like you said, going through those experiences in life, for example, there wasn't much information out there from genuine people from the Asian community, people talking about things like, for example, mental health and things like that. When you go through these experiences, you don't know what to do, and you sort of looking for information, but actually you can't find the information. So I suppose for me, doing the podcast, I suppose I wanted to try and build a community or like a sort of safe place for people to sort of share their experiences and, you know, to offer like help and support for people, because sometimes it's really difficult to open up and talk to like sort of family members, for example, but maybe us talking about certain issues on the podcast might help someone or give them the confidence to, or the courage even to talk to someone about whatever's going on.
Yeah, hopefully it does. So P, what was it like growing up for you?
For me, I didn't actually grow up in the UK. So I was born in South Africa and I lived in South Africa for the first 12 years of my life. So we lived as part of an extended family with my grandparents and my auntie, and obviously us all in the same house. So it was sort of a very tight-knit living situation, and not just within those kind of people as well. You always had aunties over and cousins over, and everybody was up in everyone's business all the time. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people could probably relate, because I know like obviously speaking to other people in the community, so many people live like that. And sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's got its pros and cons, but I think in a way, I'm sort of glad that my mum moved away from that. And I think when you're in that environment, you don't sort of see all the negative things that happen. It's only when you sort of come out of that environment that you pick up on the bad things. Like, for example, when all the aunties are commenting about your weight or your skin color or something like that, when actually nothing's wrong with you and it's normal and that's who you are, you don't think about it. But later on in life, as you grow up, when you become a teenager and stuff like that, you start getting complexes about all of these things. And, growing up, I was never a really skinny child. I was always, from the time I was born, I was always a little bit chubby. But then I started my teen years, then I obviously, I think I shot up as in height wise. So I sort of evened out. It's just not nice when people talk about things like that. But again, you don't realize it. And then we obviously moved to the UK and we were out of that environment. You then start to pick up on little things that maybe you didn't see before. But yeah, what was it like for you growing up?
So I think you were very lucky that you moved to England when you were 12, because I lived in that sort of environment until I was 20 something years old. I mean, we didn't have an extended family in the same house as such. So obviously I was with my parents, my siblings, but mashallah, we've got a really big family. So there's like 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and they've all got a few kids each. And then you've got your aunties and your uncles, so all from my dad's side of the family, and they all live within a stone throw's difference. So like they're all down the street. Like one street you go down, there's 3 relatives there. The next street you go down, there's another 3 relatives, and you can't go anywhere without bumping into someone. So like you said, there's always someone up in your, and it's not even just the aunties, that it's the uncles and it's the cousins and it's everyone who wants to, they need to know about everything that's going on in your life. It's like as if they're given some sort of God-given right to know everything about your life. And you kind of just think that's normal. You think it's normal to tell them all your details, how much how much you earn, where you work, all your sort of school GCSE results, like as if they need to know first. But it's absolutely fine because that's how it is. And yeah, only until I got married and sort of the situation changed, you kind of realize how toxic that environment is.
Yeah.
And like you, I was a bit on the chubby side when I was younger, so I was constantly given nicknames, and it gave me really big sort of complexes later on in life, and we can talk about that at another time. But
yeah,
it's weird how something that seems so normal to you at the time can trigger and play on your mind when you're older. So now if like my husband, or if someone talks about someone's, or if they comment on one of the nieces or nephews' appearance, it really bugs me, because I think to myself, no, don't say anything about their appearance, their height, if they've got a pimple or anything, because those kind of things really play on someone's mind, and it can affect their mental health. You might not realize it, and it might not have like an effect right now, but as they grow older, they'll start thinking about these things. And with social media and filters and everything that's around at the moment, it's hard not to. It's hard not to think about the way you look.
Yeah, and I feel like it's an added pressure now with social media. Maybe when we were growing up, it wasn't so bad because the internet wasn't so readily available to everybody. But now...
Yeah, like it took like 20 minutes to get the dial-up to work.
Oh my God, yes. Not to mention, can you imagine the quality of the sound and the video if we were doing the podcast back when we were growing up? There's no way.
Yeah, someone would have called the landline by now and interrupted the internet dial-up.
Exactly. But yeah, I feel like it definitely, social media definitely makes it hard. I mean, not everything about social media is bad, but I think with sort of cyberbullying and, the filters and things like that, that the whole concept of beauty changed with the time, I suppose. It'll probably touch on many, many, many things that we've mentioned.
I feel like we've both just talked about childhood and growing up, and I don't want anyone to think that obviously I hate my childhood or anything and the people are really horrible in my past life. It's just obviously this podcast is to highlight issues and things that probably don't talk about normally. So I hope no one out there is thinking, oh my God, we're slandering everyone that's been in our life previously or as we were growing up. There are obviously hugely happy memories, but at the same time, it's really good to reflect.
Yeah, no,
In case one
definitely.
of
And
my
I feel
aunties
like,
listening.
look, no, I know definitely, because it's not nice. It's not that we don't have happy memories, but obviously we're trying to pinpoint topics that people don't really talk about, but think that it's okay. It's okay, but you don't realize how it makes other people feel. So, like, when you were talking about picking on people's appearances, for example, like, you obviously know how that feels, because someone's obviously said something to you and it's touched a nerve or something, and it's not a nice thing. And because you know how it feels, you don't want to make another person feel like that, so you tend not to do it. But that doesn't mean another person feels the same way. Essentially, with the podcast, is that it's not our intention to sort of disrespect anyone's sort of opinions or religions or beliefs or anything like that. It's just we are just trying to voice out our sort of experiences and our opinions on things that we've been through in life that maybe might help somebody else out there who's struggling with something similar.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I mentioned that I obviously grew up in South Africa, but I didn't mention that obviously I grew up in a sort of Asian Indian sort of household. We had all of the cultural beliefs and sort of values and things like that is instilled down from generations and generations and generations, that never breaks the cycle. It just carries on and on and on and on. And yeah, maybe I'm going to be the one that breaks the cycle. Or certain things. I
because
think there are
often,
good values as well. That's the thing. There are good things that you learn from them as well. But sometimes not everything is good.
yeah. So my family is Muslim and my dad's side is all Pakistani, my mum's side is Indian. A lot of the things that I've noticed as I grew up were that it was mostly cultural. It wasn't religion.
Mm,
So if you actually ask someone, oh,
mm,
why are you doing a certain thing? Like they give an answer, but it's not anything to do with your religion, but it's given that sort of importance as religion, which I
mm,
find really hard to differentiate between because so now I've got two children and like when they were born, we did certain things in certain ways and again it was cultural, it wasn't religion. So they were like cultural sort of rituals,
mm.
but it's not religious.
Yeah, so
So
true.
what am I going to teach my children? Like, I don't want them to just blindly follow whatever I'm doing. I might be like saluting two magpies. That's all superstition, isn't it? But they
Do
might
you
start
salute
thinking, oh, that's part of
magpies?
Islam. Yes, of course I do.
Do
It's
you? I
luck.
did not know that about you.
Yeah,
There you go. I've
yeah.
learned a new fun fact about it. The superstition behind that.
So apparently, I don't know. There's something about the number of magpies as well. But all I know is that if you don't salute a magpie, something bad's going to happen. I have no idea where I've got that concept from.
Oh my
I don't even know if it's
gosh.
an actual superstition or if someone just told me one day. But now, like if I see a magpie, I have to salute it, no matter if I'm talking to someone from work or if I'm walking down the street, if I'm driving. Can you imagine like saluting while you're driving? But I do it.
I love it. By the way, there's loads of
Yeah,
magpies in our area. So yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna have to
yeah.
witness this one day.
I don't I don't do it all the bloody time. I do it like the first time I've seen him. And if it's the same magpies walking in my garden, I'm not going to keep on like
But how do you know
saluting them
it's
every
the
5
same?
seconds. Well, my rule is if I've seen the magpie, I've saluted it. If a friend joins the magpie, then okay, I'll salute that one. But if it gets to a point where they're coming and going, then I kind of just leave them to do their own thing.
I mean, I'm obviously not laughing at your views, but it's just, I love it. I
But
love
you are.
it.
But see, that's what I mean.
Oh.
Like if Xavier or like Zara, they see me saluting magpies, they might think, oh no, that's part of Islam. We have to salute magpies.
I
Like,
know.
do you see what I'm saying? Like sometimes you
Yeah.
just follow things just because your parents did them and or your uncles did them or your aunties
Yeah,
did
of
it or your
course.
brothers or sisters did it. Like saluting magpies, there's not much harm in that. But
Mm.
if you start making it out to be really, really important, like, oh, why haven't you saluted that magpie? Now your whole day's going to be bad, or this is why this has happened to you, then yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But there's
kind of
so
scary.
many things, isn't there? Like, I mean, I'm not a superstitious person. I've never really believed in superstitions as such, but I don't know why when a black cat runs in front of my car, a little part of me always has this tiny bit of fear, like, oh God, something bad's going to happen. But I mean, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Any of the other things like broken mirrors, walking under ladders, blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff. I've never really been a superstitious person that way, but there's just something about black cats.
I don't know, actually. Some things I'm quite superstitious about, some things I'm not. Like the scaffolding, walking under scaffolding, I'm not superstitious about that.
No, I think it's all to do with the experiences, and like you obviously pick up things from your parents and your like extended family and people around you, the people that you spend time with.
And I think it's also like when you want something good to happen in your life, or you're really praying for something to go well, you kind of want to do anything within your power to get that thing to go your way. So even if it means you follow some stupid superstition or some cultural thing that's just been passed down from generations that you do not believe in the slightest, you will do it just so that you can get what you want, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes you just kind of like just go on with it. You just think, oh, you know what? I don't want to anger any of the gods out there. I'll just go along with whatever this is.
Exactly.
Just to make it work.
Oh God, the countless times that I've done that before. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked again. Our intention with the podcast is to talk about topics that are not necessarily talked about, or topics that when we were growing up generally weren't talked about in our households. But as we grew up and we came out of that environment, you realize how important it is to talk about certain things that we've been through in life where maybe we couldn't find the help or support that we needed. Is there anything that you felt that you couldn't talk about in your household, or any experiences that you've been through that maybe you were in a situation where you felt like you couldn't talk to anyone? And what would you consider taboo as such, or like stereotypical situations you found yourself in?
So I think in terms of taboo subjects or things that aren't really talked about, the key one for me is probably mental health, depression. Because the word depressed is, I feel like as if it's just thrown around. If you're sad, you're depressed. But if you're sad, you're sad. If you're depressed, you've actually got an illness. And the problem that I found in the Asian community is depression or mental health. Those kind of things are considered as, oh, you're crazy, not you've got something that can be hopefully helped. If you tell someone they're crazy and if you tell them continuously or enough times, they'll start thinking they're crazy as well. And
of course,
I've actually seen that in our community. I've seen relatives that have been told that they're crazy to such an extent that they have actually become crazy.
It's shocking because like even things with depression, it's not something that can be helped. It's a chemical thing in your brain. People don't realize that. They think, oh, you're just saying it. Like when someone's got depression, it's actually a medical thing, and people don't think of it like that. They just think what you said, that you're just crazy or you're just being dramatic type thing. But actually you're not. You've genuinely got a medical problem and you genuinely need help.
And the worst thing someone can say to you when you're depressed is snap out of it or cheer up. Because if it was that easy, you would cheer up. It's not like you're having a bad day or bad hair day or something where, something's going to cheer you up. When you're depressed, you feel like as if you're in an abyss. You just keep sinking down. And someone telling you to cheer up isn't going to help. But yeah, so that's one of the things that I think is a taboo subject, or anything related to mental health.
Yeah, there's so many things that you could talk of when it comes to mental health, like eating disorders, hormone problems, so many things, stress. It's crazy.
Stress is a massive thing.
Yeah.
But what about you? What would you consider as not as taboo or don't really talk about?
For me, I think it wasn't talked about much in our household as well. With my mum, yes, but not my dad. I'm talking about periods. For the listeners out there that don't know, I've basically got PCOS, which is really common. A lot of women have it. But throughout my teen years and things like that, obviously I I sort of didn't know what the heck was going on with my body. But we'll sort of talk about that more in depth further on in the podcast. But again, although it's so common, not a lot of people have heard about it, or people have heard about it, but actually they don't know what it is. And like for me growing up, that was something major. And I maybe felt that, you know, if I was more aware about it, or maybe even if my mum was more aware about it, I'm not saying that my mum obviously wasn't involved in the process or anything like that, but I'm just saying that if there was more information about that was helpful, maybe I would be going through a different experience, or maybe I would have had a different experience growing up with PCOS.
In terms of PCOS, to be honest, I didn't know much about it. I knew a few people who had it. And now that I look back, I've sort of connected the dots and I've realized more people have had it, but they just didn't admit that they had PCOS.
Some people have it, genuinely, they have it and they don't know that they've got it. I mean, I had it for so many years. I knew I had it for so many years, but I didn't know anything about what it was, or, you know, part of me probably didn't want to know either, because when I found out about it, I was obviously really young. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't thinking about anything.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? But there's so little information out there on so many different subjects that we don't talk about. So another thing I would say is about being a mum.
Yeah.
Everyone expects you to be also happy and bonding with the baby and over the moon that you're pregnant and you've got something growing inside you. But no one actually tells you the reality of how hard it is. The whole pregnancy process, the whole trying to conceive process, the actual having the child, and then having two of them. The sleepless nights, the fact that it's been, I think, three years, P, and the latest I've ever slept in is 9 o'clock in 3 years.
Wow.
And it's like, what has happened? Of course, I'm grateful that I've got children. That I'm not denying that for a second, but there's so many other things that if people just told you, oh, you know what, it's okay to not feel great after you've had a baby, or it's okay to, you know, just want a break for a little while. You're not a bad mum.
And what about all the mental health things that come with having babies as well, and postnatal, prenatal even? There's so much mental health stuff around that as well that people actually don't talk about, especially in Asian communities, I would say as well. You just like get thrown in and you just have to deal with it. That's it. The whole family is sort of judging you in the background, and you know that, and you can feel that presence, I suppose, and you just get on with it no matter what your body or your mind is going through.
Yeah. And the thing is, with like if you're living in an extended family, there's a saying, isn't it? It takes a village to
raise a
kid, a baby, or look after a child. Raise a kid, that's it. And it does. But what if you don't have a village? Then what do you do?
Exactly.
Maybe back in the days when people lived closer together and they had massive families living in the same house, you had that support where if you needed to go out for a bit, you'd left your child with the grandparents or the sister-in-law or something. But now things have changed so much. It's not the same. Everyone's working. Everyone's got their own lives. You can't just drop your kid off with someone and expect them to look after it. You are their sole provider. And that's hard. It's really hard not having the bit of space.
It really is. And I think like even back in the days, maybe not my parents, but my grandparents' generation, the mum just stayed home and her job was to look after the kids and to run the household. And the man went out to work. And that was her sole responsibility. So yes, she managed all of that. And that in itself is a full-time job. But now women like us, or like you, for example, you've got to run the house, you've got to manage the kids, plus you've got your career there as well. I feel like now in this day and age, it's really hard for the women not to work in the society that we're living in. One, yes, you want the career, you want to feel like you're achieving something, but also maybe you can't afford not to work.
Yeah, there was a saying that I heard, or it was a phrase where someone said, you go to work like as if you haven't got a child, and then you come back home like as if you don't have a job.
Yeah.
And that's not possible. Your brain doesn't switch off like that. Like I remember when I went back to work, like I know we'll probably talk about this on another episode, but I remember like when I went back to work after Xavier was born, and I remember just being like an emotional wreck. Like I was looking forward to going back to work so much, but then just random things, and I just break down in tears. And I'm thinking, hold on a second, I'm an internal auditor. I can't be crying over little things. But yeah, it just your brain changes. Your brain actually changes after you become a mum.
Yeah, of
But
course
yeah,
it
that's
does.
that's a
There's so
whole
many.
different
I
whole different
know.
episode.
Oh, let's not get into that now. But yeah, I mean, we could go on, but let's not. Oh, there's so many things, and I think like with this kind of things, like I think everyone can relate to at least one thing that maybe they felt you couldn't talk to your family about it, or you're worried to talk to your family about it because you don't know how they're going to react, or you think this is how they're going to react, and you're already predicting what's going to happen, in the future, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It is really terrifying. Like, I know with me, with obviously the PCOS and my periods being so irregular, I was like ashamed, like, oh my God, why am I not getting my period? I don't want to tell anyone that I'm not getting my period. It's embarrassing, isn't it? It's really like for you as a child, but actually it's not embarrassing, and you shouldn't be made to feel like it's an embarrassing thing, because every single woman goes through it. Every single woman has
Yeah.
a period. It's a natural part of your body and your life and your cycle.
Yeah.
But isn't it just
Yeah.
weird how you're made to feel like it's such an embarrassing, disgusting thing, but it isn't?
Yeah, that's it. You're supposed to feel ashamed of having a period. It's just bizarre how rubbish you're meant to feel because you've had a period. Well, you didn't choose to have that period. You were born as a female. Your body's going to work in certain ways. Why should you feel embarrassed? And you shouldn't be made to feel like that, that you can't talk about certain things or that you're impure in any way because you've had a period.
I mean, we could go on, the list goes on and on, I think, about topics. And, obviously we'd love to hear from the listeners as well about obviously their experiences and things that are affecting them, or you don't know how to address it, for example. These are kind of things that we're working on at the moment. Hopefully we can provide a little bit of insight and share our experiences on what we've been through, and maybe it will help someone.
Yeah, that is the aim. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you, and it'd be interesting to know what type of communities you come from as well, because it'd be nice to know if you come from an extended family or anything like that, and how it's been in your experience. You might have had a completely different experience to us, but yeah, we'd love to hear more from you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Not Your Typical Sister podcast. We're really looking forward to your feedback so that we can hopefully help build up our content. We've got lots more to come, so watch this space.
We'd absolutely love to hear from you. We're on Instagram at Not Your Typical Sister. We'll also have a Facebook community page, so hopefully you can join our tribe. We would absolutely love to hear from you guys, hear what, any feedback on the podcast. You can comment or leave us reviews on whether you're listening on YouTube or on any of the podcast streaming services. And yeah, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. I can't believe we've done our first episode. Hopefully there's many, many more to come. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Not Your Typical Sister.
We would love to hear your thoughts and comments. You can leave us comments and reviews on whichever streaming service you are listening through.
Don't forget to join our tribe on Instagram and Facebook at Not Your Typical Sister.
Speak to you next time.